did you start making artwork for T-shirts or doing flash in a way that you were decided to sell versus just making flash for the shop you're working in?
Well, that's a good question. I wish I had a good answer, but I don't. But I'll give you one anyway. I started drawing flash before I tattooed professionally. I did a few things because Charlie, said like, "Hey man, make some designs for the new shop and stuff." So I did a few pieces of flash before I even officially went to work for Charlie and stuff. And then it was like then I started doing more sheets. Like there's some old original sheets that you might have seen in the shop over there against that wall and on the other side of my office. Anyhow, and then at some point, I mean, people started selling again with the new tattoo renaissance and shit. People started selling sheets of flash, and the first set that I ever did for sale was in 1980. So that was 5 years after I started.
Okay.
And Ernie Carafa,
okay,
of the old Guideline Tattoo supply, right? Well, he made them for me.
Was that Pennsylvania?
No, he was in New Jersey.
Sorry.
And I did a 10-sheet set, and the hardest part for me really was trying to keep it somewhat simple, because I thought, well, I know the majority of people tattooing out there, they're not doing what me and Charlie are doing. They're not doing this fine line, super detailed stuff. So I want to make it where it's more user friendly, let's say, which didn't even exist. That phrase didn't even exist in those days. But anyway, it still is accurate. So I thought, I want to make it to where most tattooers are going to be able to do this. So to keep it a lot more simple than I would have done it had it only been for the shop. So that was the hard part. I did a 10-sheet set, and to this day, 40 years later, that stuff still sells. If I just got $1, if I was just getting $1 for every one of those designs, every one of them tattoo designs I did for 40 years, that's been put on for 40 years, well, we probably wouldn't be doing this interview unless you came out to, Grand Cayman or wherever the hell I'd be hanging out.
And you know what?
Yeah.
I would totally go.
Yeah, exactly. So see,
so we would still be doing the interview.
We'd still be doing it.
Okay.
Just a little different circumstances, and etc. Anyway, so I did that first set, and it was like to me it was a commercial set, because I really was wanting to make it to where most anybody would be able to do it without a lot of difficulty.
And which the idea then was to make it be able to sell more.
Well, yeah, and Ernie made those, and man, he put it like on 140-pound cover stock. So these were like big, thick, quality. And that was when, in those days too, the only choice you had was to print. There was no digital shit of any kind in those days, right? So this was really, really well done. And so anyway, and then it was like 1981, I saw a set of flash that Ron Ackers had signed his name on. Notice how I said Ron Ackers signed his name on it. It was like, Ron Ackers didn't draw this. Ron Ackers was a good tattooer and a good artist, but I thought, he didn't do this. This was stuff that was like fine line, super fine black and gray shading, and it was really, really fucking good. And I saw that and I thought, well, that's it. I'm never going to do another commercial set. From now on, I'm going to just draw stuff the way that I would just do it for my shop, for Charlie's shop, So I'm never going to do another commercial set. Like, I don't care if you can't do it. Well, then it gives you something to work at, And if you can, well, that's great. And if you can't, well, then whatever.
Okay.
So the next set I did in 1982. I didn't do one in 81. They did that 80 set, and that was 10 sheets. And then I did my first limited edition black and gray set in 82, because I was inspired by that set that Ron signed his name on. I remember even asking him too, and he would never give me a straight A. Well, I did that. I said, Come on, Ron.
Right.
Ronnie.
So,
anyway, the stuff was beautiful. Really, really,
what
really
inspired you
well
to
done.
make it limited?
Because I just thought, well, there's not going to be a tremendous amount of people that probably even want to do stuff like this,
Okay.
or that can do stuff like this. You know, so I thought, like, I'm not going to make 500 sets or 1,000 sets, because remember, there was a lot less people tattooing in those days,
Yeah.
if you can imagine, than the tens of thousands of motherfuckers doing it these days. But anyhow, so yeah, I thought, yeah, I want to do it. It could be more of a collector's item too, I'll do this limited edition, and I signed and numbered every sheet.
And how many did you do?
I think I did maybe 250, 200 sets,
Okay.
maybe that, maybe 100 sets. I don't know, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't more than 200.
Right.
For sure.
Okay.
And then from then, and I don't think I did one in 83. I think I skipped 83, then did one in 84, then I might have done one in 85. Anyway, I did them off and on from 82, my limited edition black and gray fine line sets, up until maybe 98. I think was the last set that I did, last set of flash that I did. And I did a couple of collaborations too. Like at one point, me and some of the guys at the shop, we did a collaboration set with Phip Buchanan and Patty Kelly, and Creeper was in on that set. Big Jeff was in on that set too. We did one, but that was a little different because we did it colored and black and gray both, and it was a little bit just doing a little something different, And then also did a set with Philip Liu from 1995.
Yes, I
that we did a collaborative set, 6 sheets instead. Like when I started doing the limited edition sets, I did 5 sheets, but then with Philip, which might have been the first collaboration with just me and one other artist, that was a 6-sheet set. And then I also did a set maybe in 96 or 98, I don't know, with Brian Everett.
Okay.
Did a collaborative set with him, also 6 sheets. And I've done sheets of flash since then, and even individual sheets for whatever. Some were like for a charity of some sort, but then I don't think I did a set of flash again until I did the lettering set that was 13 sheets, and they were big, 14 by 17.
Okay.
So those were and also a really limited edition on those as well. Sold out of those, and then I switched to the book format because everybody likes the books. Nobody, and those are big sheets. So they're like that size.
Right.
That's at least a 14 by 17. It might even be a 15 by 20, but I think it's.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I think that one might even be larger than that. But anyhow, so yeah, the last set I remember doing was I think 1998, for as far as a set goes. So yeah, from 82 to 98, I did flash sets off and on.
And you also did a lot of T-shirt designs.
Yeah. I started my first T-shirt design that I remember was maybe 1982, and that was wow. I started in 75, so that was 7 years later. But that was for the second shop in East LA. We never did have any T-shirts, from the first shop. Never just never got around to doing it. And in those days too, it was different. It wasn't nearly as popular a thing as it is now.
Sure.
But silk screening was a much simpler process in those days too. Not like this. Like that kind of stuff was not being done at all.
Right.
And so I remember I just did it with just ink and stippled, I think, for shading.
Probably made it a lot simpler so they could execute.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so I think that was my first T-shirt design. But I'm gonna make a book. That's something I decided to do because like I still have 98% of all the T-shirt designs I've ever done, unless I did one for a person's shop.
Right.
Then of course that's going to be yours. But all the ones I've done for conventions and myself
Right.
and other shows that where it was part of the thing, like I want to keep that original, you know. So I've got probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 or so
Awesome.
T-shirt designs, and I'm going to make a book out of them. You know, probably shrink it down to 11 by 14, but I don't know. If I can get away with doing it bigger, maybe I will.
That's cool.
But, you know, some of the ones I did in the old days were 11 by 14. And then I went to got the tablet of Bristol, like 14 by 17. Fuck yeah. You know, and that's actually still the maximum that a lot of silk screeners can do. They can't go larger than that.
Right,
but that's big anyway. Like
Yeah.
you don't really need to go larger than that unless you're just doing it because you can and whatever.
Right.
Which I think this might be 15 by 20. Because that Sullen did that one, and that's an oversize. I think so, because I think that's on a big sheet. Yeah, that would be bigger, because that's I have some big sheets of coquille board
Right.
that I bought years ago when the rumor had it that like they
They're
were
all
going to
gonna
quit making
quit.
that shit.
Yeah.
You know, but now B Paper Company offers they have tablets.
Oh, nice.
9 by 12 and 11 by 14.
Oh, cool.
So you can buy tablets of coquille board. You know, call it that, but that's what it is.
Okay.
So if you like doing that kind of stuff, man, you know, where you got that crazy pattern in the paper, you know, that texture, it's
Sure.
like it's super cool for black and gray stuff.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so I've done a bunch, and I think I want to do that. Just put it because like see that's the thing. Even the most, if there is such a thing, hardcore collector of my work, no one has everything I've ever done. Like one of
Sure.
everything I've ever done. Just nobody has
Yeah.
that. No collector that I know of. And I would think if there was, then I would know that person. Right? If they had like
Right.
a copy of every
Well, they would,
thing of
because-
artwork,
Yeah, because I would be in contact with you all
poster,
the time.
T-shirt thing of
Yeah.
every, you know, yeah. And I don't think anybody has that.
Well, let me know if you got doubles of some old shirts.
I do have a bunch of old shirts, and I'm in the process of finally organizing this shit and categorizing it and inventorying it because I've had like I've been forced to because I've had so much fucking shit in my house and my garage
Right.
and everywhere that I was like, God, I can't, you know. And for years and years, I always had leftovers from the national show.
Right.
And I even like kept even lowering my numbers. It's just I thought like, wow, because I thought like, man, if everybody here, just the people that are registered for the show, if they all bought one, I would not have enough to go around. But that wasn't the case, and like I never could figure out why, but I would always end up with shirts left over, and I'm taking them home because I'm not gonna. That's the thing I never thought. I'm never gonna blow these out on Sunday because I don't want to take them back. It's like I paid good money for these things, and you know I'll just take them back and figure it out later. But like I'm not gonna just put them on because like you set precedent when you do that. If you go to a show every year and you do that, because like for example, there's conventions out there that will sell the shirts for say $20-25 or whatever Friday and Saturday, and then whatever they got left they'll blow it out for half price on Sunday. But like you don't think people say, hey dude, don't buy it till Sunday.
Of course.
Yeah, don't pay retail when you can get it wholesale on Sunday. And I just thought
Totally.
that's bullshit just because you don't want to take them back.
Right.
Anyway, I took them back, and so I have a bunch of so
Cool.
this year
Let me know.
this year it's going to happen. I'm going to put
I'm interested in buying some.
yeah, I got a
appreciate
bunch
it.
of old stuff, convention shirts
Cool.
and shop shirts, and I just got to like get a place, a space where I can
Go through it.
inventory everything and
Right.
then mark it on the bins because I've got a lot of the stuff is in like big giant cardboard boxes that are bursting at the seams.
Sure.
I found one
Because
recently.
the cardboard boxes are 30 years old.
Oh yeah, I found one recently, and it's not even that old. It's from 2000 and 2009, so it's 13 years old.
Uh-huh.
But that's still, you know, vintage, I guess, whatever. But it was from a show I did in Texas,
Okay.
and the show was not good for T-shirt sales, and I had no idea how many I had left. But I had them all in one big giant box that weighed 75 pounds, and I thought, I know I sent this back UPS ground. I know I did. I wouldn't have paid the money to ship
Right.
it back since it was already overweight for a plane. And anyway, I went through it, inventoried it, and I ended up having 171 shirts.
Fuck.
Now that's mostly men's, but I also had women's and kids shirts as well. So it kind of sucked as far as
Yeah, it did.
T-shirt sales. But now I've got the whole thing inventoried, and I've got them organized in bins where I know, these sizes are in this bins.
Right.
This is men's, this is women's, this is kids. So I haven't posted it yet, but I'm gonna.
All right.
At least I got that first step done, where at least I know what
Yeah.
I've got and how many.
Right.
But so I'm gonna do that with all of them. But
All right.
you gotta have space.
You gotta let me know first.
Okay. Remind me.
I will.
Text me. Remind me.
I got your number.
All right, good. Use it. So that's how the T-shirt thing kind of started, and of course, I'm working on a shirt for a guy now on the East Coast. I'm doing a shop shirt for him,
Okay.
but I haven't tattooed in like 4 or 5 months,
Right.
and I just started doing commissioned art for people because they shut us down, and of course tattooing's always been the ace in the hole. Like, hey, the money gets funny, guest spot, tattoo show. But then was like, wait, you can't fly anywhere. Tattoo shows, they're all canceled. It's like you can't go to somebody's shop, it's shut down, and et cetera, et cetera. I thought, what the fuck am I going to do? And then a friend of mine says, well, why don't you do artwork and sell it? And I'm like, well, if you think people will buy it, he goes, yeah, I think people will get it. And so it turned out, luckily, he was right.
It turned out.
It turned out. And so I started doing like 5x7s, 8x10s, later it added the 9x12s and 11x14s. But I was doing the 5x7, 8x10, 11x14s originally. Then I added the other size as well. And
I mean, you need a custom size.
yeah. But even well, yeah, well, and if somebody wants a big one, like I'm doing this one for this guy, this friend of mine on the East Coast, a guy, Tony Franco, who's opening a new shop. He's been tattooing for 25 or 30 years. Used to work for J.D. Crowe for a long time in Richmond, Virginia.
Right.
Okay, well, not Richmond. No.
JD, I don't know where JD. I can't remember. Carolinas? No.
No, but he's on Virginia Beach.
Oh, okay.
Virginia Beach. So anyway, he's opening a new shop out there, and I'm doing an all-out, full-color 14x17 piece
Cool.
for him.
Cool. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be, and it's like he just says, just go, do whatever you need to do.
So that actually kind of
So
segues.
that's really cool.
Yeah. You're lucky.
Because I don't see the shirts the T-shirt designs I did in color were the ones for national.
Yep.
Except for maybe a couple of them. I think 2 of them I did in black and gray, but all the rest of them, because I did them pretty much. Well, I didn't do them all, but I did the majority of them. Like I did probably 9/10 of them. I did the official T-shirt design. Crow used to do it too.
Right.
Crow was my competition, where Crow would do a shirt too. But I guess in those days there was enough people going to where it was actually it was okay. But over the years, it just the people that would go, because that became like that's the old farts tattoo show, and they got larger and larger, and national stayed the same. They stayed old school, a smaller show, which was great, more intimate. You got to actually had more time to bullshit with people and
Right.
hang out and stuff, and not have all the hubbub of a giant show.
Right.
Which I miss.
Circus.
Yeah. Oh, it really became a 3-ring tattoo circus.
Yeah.
Really did, and it still is, and will be again, I guess, at some point. I
Yeah.
guess. We'll see.
So, talking about the designs you're doing currently, and it sounds like you're pretty excited about doing the full color one. kind of leads me to the question about how have you managed to stay inspired over the course of your career with the length of it, and how you've stayed so, I don't know, the level of work that you produce the whole time has been such a high level of work and such an inspiration and driving force in tattooing to my eye. How do you stay inspired to keep pushing?
First of all, thanks, man. I appreciate that a lot. Different things inspire me and always have. Like, I get inspired from all kinds of things, like other people, like you, for example. I'll see some fucking really cool, crazy fucking monster dragging you. I'm like, fuck, that's so badass. And like, thinking that, God, I wish I got hit up to do something like that, because I've never been that much of a self-promoter in the fact that, like, if I see something that someone's done that's really cool, that like I want to do a JR version of that, instead of like putting that out there like, hey, I want to do something like this, hit me up. I've never done that.
Gotcha.
I kind of, and then of course if you're waiting for somebody to come along and do that for you, well, it's like waiting for a streetcar. It's not likely to come anytime soon, right? So even when, like, when I would do a new piece, I've never been a real good self-promoter. Like, I wouldn't even occur to me to put on there, because I found this out later, but a lot of people just like didn't hit me up, and it was more and more as time went on, because I just thought, oh, the guy's booked up for a year or two or whatever. And I was like, well, that's not the fucking case. I've never been booked up for more than like a month or so, because I don't want to be. When I hear about people booked up for a year or two, it's like, what the fuck? There's so many things that could happen during that time.
Yeah.
Like, you get injured or sick or any number of things, and if you're really booked up that much, then what are you going to do if you get sick for a couple of weeks? Well, now you got to like jam, like get a and so now you got to like work all these extra days and hours, because you can't reschedule everybody.
Right.
That ain't going to work. But I mean, people want to have job security and stuff, whatever. But I've always just kind of flown by the seat of my pants, so to speak, on that one. So like, and I started working appointment only, like probably more than 30 years ago. I decided to do that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, more, because I just thought, well, fuck, I can do that. I can get away with that. So
right.
Instead of doing walk-ins, but see, that's the thing. I still always did walk-ups at conventions,
right.
At shows. Like, a lot of times, see, that's another thing. I wouldn't even think, like, I'm going to this show, perhaps I should post something about that. Hey, I'm going to be at this show, and I've got a couple spots left, or whatever. I wouldn't do that. And so there's been shows I just showed up at, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to post on my digital Post-it notes that I was going to be at this show and that I was going to be working.
Right.
But as luck would have it, I would always have some walk-ups. People come up and hit me up, usually other tattooers, but sometimes collectors, whatever, would hit me up. Hey man, you've got time this weekend? I go, well, let me check my watch. Yeah, I think I do have some time, whatever. And then so I would always end up doing something. But
right.
so it would just slip my mind. I just wouldn't think to say that, oh, hey, I'm going to be here and I've got some time these days and whatever, But then I'd post a new tattoo on Instagram, and I would forget to put at the end, for an appointment, call this number, call the shop number, call Carrie's number. I wouldn't think to do that. It just didn't occur to me. And I never thought that by not doing that, a lot of people would assume, oh, he doesn't put that for an appointment, call. If you'd like to get something added to your fine collection, call. And I wouldn't do that. So people assumed, oh, he's not doing anything. He's
right.
all booked up.
Right. And
that was not the case. But it was, it's my own fault, because it just didn't occur to me, like, oh yeah, I should, I should put that, like, I've got to, because how you've seen it a million times, where people on Instagram in particular will put like, oh, hey, I had a last minute cancellation.
Yeah.
You want to get some work?
Yeah.
Hit me up. stuff like that. Now a lot of times that's legit because people do make last minute cancellations.
Oh yeah.
But see, that's a negative thing. You shouldn't even say it. You shouldn't even put it that way. You should say, had to reschedule somebody because of cancellation. Would you have a falling out with this person? They don't like you anymore. They think you suck. Whatever. But it is negative. Right. Instead, put reschedule. Like that means like, oh, hey, something came up. The guy can't get or girl can't get tattooed today. They're going to be back. They're rescheduled. That's positive.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good thing. But when you put cancellation, it's like, wow, what the fuck happened there? Of course, a lot of people just right over their head and they don't give a fuck. But anyway, so I've never done that either. I've never done that. Like, hey, I had a last minute rescheduling problem here, whatever, and so I never done. But see, and the thing is too, I don't got anything against anybody that does that at all. I think like whether it's just a hustle, like hey. Because people don't want to say, "Hey, I need some money. Who wants to get tattooed?"
Right, because it sounds bad.
Because that sounds kind of desperate. Right. And then people are going to be trying to, hit you up for something a lot cheaper than maybe you would normally do it.
Right.
So you don't want to get into that trick bag. But at the same time, too, so they would say, "Oh, I had a last-minute cancellation," and in some cases it's probably true. Other cases it's just bullshit because they just want to get somebody in. Nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that at all. But I've just never been that guy to say, hey, who wants to get some work? Hit me up. So I've been a terrible self-promoter. Terrible.
It reminds me when Eddie came and worked at my shop a few years ago.
Which Eddie?
Deutsch, sorry.
Eddie Deutsch.
Made my assistant. She booked for him.
Yeah.
And I think maybe she took some deposits for him and stuff. And she said, "Hey, Eddie, what's your policy on like rescheduling? Like, how do we do that if they need to reschedule?" He said, "Oh, stop. First of all, don't even tell them that rescheduling is a possibility. There's no rescheduling."
No option.
And I was like, I love
option.
that.
Yeah.
Because she was like, "What's your reschedulation policy?" And he was like, No.
Yeah,
don't tell them that zero, none.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's really good.
But then what if somebody cannot make it? Then they'll just forfeit the.
Oh yeah, forget it. Yeah, you forfeit your because you made an appointment.
Your deposit, right.
And
because then you do got to unless you've got a list of people. Hey, if anything happens,
which are last minute people, which is always difficult.
Right.
You got to have a lot. That's a lot of flexibility, a lot of
absolutely
so much.
Absolutely, somebody's got to have a lot of money and no job essentially. Or they're the boss and they can just come and go as they please. But
right.
Again, that's kind of a rarity.
Right.
More than it is, the usual.
So I have a question too. Going back, you said you've been doing appointment only for about 30 years, which
at least. Because I've been in Anaheim now for 35 years as of January.
Okay. Wow.
So it was a couple of years after doing that, after opening the first location, my first shop in Orange County, which was 35 years ago.
This made me wonder if that notion, or not notion, but just the possibility of doing appointment-only work, was that spawned from Ed bringing over the private shop?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
It's
Guys,
really interesting.
Ed and guys like him that were doing it all by appointment. Because I thought, by that time, I've got enough of a following, I believe, to where, and I've never been that hustler guy, again, where I want to, day in and day out, I want to do 3 or 4, big appointments. It's like, fuck, man, one person, or if it's a small piece, then okay, 2 people, but that's good. I don't need to, because even, I still used to work on people anywhere from a couple hours to 6 or 8 hours sometimes.
Right.
So it was still, long hours I was putting in and shit. But I just thought, because I just thought, hey, for the guys that are here that are working shifts, also, they can catch all the walk-in action, whatever that may be. And then, I'll have people that really specifically want the JR style, which I'm kind of good at doing, sorta, and I'll do that.
Right.
I'll do, and so that's still, doing those Rudy girls and roses and peacocks and lettering and wizards and skulls and all that stuff, So that's what I even started doing when I started doing the commissioned art for people and didn't tattoo.
Right.
I just was doing from 5x7 to 11x14 and doing it much cheaper than I tattoo because, let's face it, it's a lot easier.
Right.
You know, drawing is much easier and more relaxing than tattooing.
Right.
Because tattooing, you know, you got the human canvas, man, and you got to be on it. I think so anyway. That like, fuck, man, you got basically no room for error. And like, I'm the kind of guy too. I don't take breaks unless you need a break. We're not taking a break, and that's, you better really need one, or we're, you know, like if you need a smoke break, you tell me that, it's like, oh fuck yeah, you can have one when we're done. When we're finished, you'll get your fucking cigarette break. Cause like, I'm not a fan. For tattooing, you know, my first influence, real influence, was Good Time Charlie, of course, because that's a guy I worked with. So yeah, he was an influence, and then, you know, met Ed Hardy, Mike Malone, Bob Roberts in '77, and we might have met Bob before that because I think he was working at the Pike at the time.
Right.
But you know, so then those guys were definitely influenced. But probably my biggest ever tattoo influence, and Freddie was a big influence on me as well, from '77. Big time. Girls and lettering that he did and stuff. He just was like, his shit was so fucking cool. But the biggest influence, I still think to this day, was Greg Irons. You know, with his lettering style that I really just loved. I just loved all his lettering style that he did, and his negative space style. Because like, he was actually an originator in the early days. Because like, when Charlie and I started tattooing together, there were basically two styles of tattooing: take it or leave it. No, actually, there was what we now call American traditional, okay? And then there was a phony, pseudo Oriental style, and that's okay to use that word because it's with art of tattooing. But there were only a handful of people that could actually pull that off, and that was Ed Hardy,
Malone.
Mike Malone, Sailor Jerry, who had just died in 1973,
Right.
Cliff Raven, Don Nolan. There was only a handful of people that really cared about it enough to be really good at it, to study it, to learn it, to be good, etc. And that was about it, because everybody else was doing a pretty much kind of pseudo phony style, as we all have seen photos and in person, really terrible renditions of Japanese style, you know, tattooing. You know, really terrible. These people, a lot of them had no fucking idea what they were doing. But when did that stop a lot of people? Never, as you know. So, you know, that was it. And then Charlie and I, really kind of unbeknownst to us at the time, it really didn't sink in that we started doing this single needle black and gray. So we were the first new style of tattooing since electric tattooing began, as far as a shop goes. Because again, we didn't invent it. That was invented in the pretty much the California, you know, penitentiary system.
Right.
Is where that really got fine tuned into the
Right,
art.
galvanized.
You know.
In
Yes.
the way it was done.
So, but early on, and then see Leo Zulueta started the whole tribal thing,
Right.
which was again done in, you know, New Guinea and other,
Borneo, right.
yeah, places, but it wasn't done in a tattoo shop. That stuff
Right.
was not done in a tattoo shop, and he kind of brought that forward into mainstream tattooing. And then Greg Irons with his negative space style, which was just, you know, derived from his art style, because he did that in comics,
Right.
you know, in his artwork and stuff, you know. And but see, this is during the tattoo renaissance. We're like, wow, here's a new style, here's a new style, here's a new style, and now there's like, you know, fucking 50 probably distinct styles of tattooing, but there was only two in America
So that's really great that you
to
brought
begin
up,
with.
Right, that's really great that you brought up Greg, because I actually on the way here was like, you know, I don't know how. Maybe it's more of a personal thing, but I was like, did you ever meet Greg?
Oh fuck yeah, we were good friends, man.
Oh,
I
man.
tattooed him, he tattooed me. He did where is this stuff? over here, like
He did
from
that?
around the elbow down, and it's still kind of legible. Like see
It's got a little demon skull here.
yeah, the skull.
I see it.
See,
Yeah,
and then
another skull.
and then
Got two skulls.
Philip Liu worked into that because he just like left it because he was gonna do the a lot more
Let's see that.
before his untimely death.
Right.
But I tattooed him, he tattooed me, and I only did a small one on him. I owed him for this and stuff, and so he did this on me, man. Like, well, he died in '84, so it was probably '82 or '83, something like that, I believe. And he worked at worked at Goldfields at the time that he did that.
You know, I figured.
And see, and I remember when I heard it, because I was a big fan of his artwork, and then I heard I go, Greg Irons is tattooed. You mean that Greg Irons, the underground, artist guy, that guy? And they go, yeah, and I'm like, holy fuck! And I was like, oh, I gotta meet this guy. I already know I want some of his work.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, and I think maybe at that time he was working for Ed, and he got tattooed by Ed. I think he got some water and stuff on his upper arm, and because like he was actually trying to learn some technique and stuff from Ed, but I don't think he said so. He was just kind of like, okay, yeah, and because like Ed wasn't doing any like apprenticeships, although I think he ended up helping. Realize what a cool
such
guy,
a talent too.
That Greg was, and I know he helped him
Right.
along the way and stuff,
And you could tell, I mean, Greg's so talented, it
absolutely.
couldn't take that long for him to figure it out.
No,
It couldn't,
No, it was just for him because, like, again, he was using probably rapidographics or something equivalent,
Right.
and doing all this, stippling and line work and all this. So, like, he was just such a natural. He
Such a
immediately,
natural, right?
he immediately, and that's even, like the single needle side of town stuff that he did.
What did he shade it with? Like a 6 flat or something?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't remember.
Just curious.
I don't remember what he did, but it was like that whole big elbow skull piece, going down to wherever that ends up around there somewhere.
Yeah.
So
It almost looks like a
that was
little
82.
baboonish
Yes,
kind of, right?
yes,
It kind of
I
has
know.
that feel, right?
Because I just said, I don't know, I just want some scully thing, and he's like drew it on, and was like, and I remember too, is like one of the only times I actually ever fell asleep for a little while getting tattooed.
Really?
Because he did not have a heavy hand, and plus I was really, really tired. I don't think I got nearly enough sleep, maybe a couple of hours, and I flew up there, so anyway, and then I'm like the old school way, like this, right? And I think I had maybe an armrest, and I'm like kind of, like this on or whatever, and I remember, that I actually fell asleep during that process, but
Well, I figured he was an
see,
influence.
Freddie did this one. This one is well over 40 years old. This was
cool.
done at the second shop, the second East LA shop.
Did he do
there.
this too? This little
Yeah,
skull?
From here up to up into here.
It's really cool. Were these skulls?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can kind of tell. I just
Yeah,
wasn't sure.
yeah.
And what's going on here?
Just
It's a cauldron?
Cauldron
Okay.
with a skull in it.
It's
'cause,
cool.
skulls belong in cauldrons among other things. But yeah, so and then it was I had the idea of just like this kind of wizardy looking fucker, with a, and so then that was done with I don't know, mags or flat. I think mags. I think we were using mags at that time.
Okay.
But that was like that was so cool because that was my prime real estate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's still the only one that Freddie ever ended up doing on me.
Okay.
But it's a great one, and it's like again that's like 40, probably 42 or so years old. So it's
So
vintage.
cool.
Yeah, and then I did this stuff here. This crazy fish being attacked by the sharktopus or whatever this thing is. And I put the eyeballs in later, and I wish I never did because I really ended up liking, as time went on, more and more that blind, wide-eye look in monsters and shit. And
Yeah.
and I thought I wish
Gives them a different power.
yeah,
right?
I did it much later that I put those in,
Huh.
and I wish I'd never done it. Maybe I'll get them lasered. and they'll be like this, these blind, you know. I like doing that and stuff. I do girls sometimes like that if they're kind of a little more on the demonic side or whatever. Like I like that look. Well, you noticed that I did that on I don't know if you noticed, but on Roy's back piece.
Oh yeah.
Homegirl's Got No Eyes.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I thought, you know what? I want to do it like that, and also because, like, her face is not that big,
Yeah.
and if you even on the tiniest of single needle stuff, like, that's not gonna really last for the long haul. Because it's like, you know, riser, shit, you know.
And you know, backs.
1/4 inch.
A lot of times backs age quicker than a lot of other body parts
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So I even said from the get-go, like, I won't put no eyes in her. Because she's got that look like, hey, believe me, she can see.
Right.
She don't need regular eyeballs and shit. She can see like a motherfucker. So